Hey guys, so today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how to do the strict ring muscle up and then from a seated position, and then we're also going to go over some tips and drills to make it easier for when you're trying to do the muscle up. I know that it can be frustrating, and a lot of times if you can just have little tips, it'll make a big difference, and that's something that we're going to talk about today. So something as simple as where to chalk up when you go to do a false grip muscle up, right? So we want to make sure that this part of our hand right here is what's getting chalked up, and that's where we're going to try and put the rings, right? So when I go to put in my hands into a false grip, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the rings, split the ring in half, turn my hands in just like that, and then if you look, when I sit over the top, I'm going to be pushing down on the rings so my thumb will be loose, and if I push down, I'm in a stable position, right? A lot of times when people try to do a strict muscle up, they'll get stuck and their hand will actually fall through and their thumb is weak right here. So we want to make sure that when we are in this false grip position, even from here, I'm pushing down on those rings, right? If I push down on the rings, then my wrist is going to be solid into these rings and then I won't fall through, because this isn't what we want to see, right? So again, let's just hit this real quick. I'm going to split the rings in half, turn my hands in, split the rings in half, turn my hands in, roll the rings. I'm going to put my thumbs to the inside of my shoulders, right? So if I'm right here, because basically where I end up, when I end up right here, I don't really want my thumbs to move, okay? So as I come here and I put my chest through, I want my thumbs to stay in the same position, but I just want my elbows to come back and through, okay? So that's, again, in the false grip, you need to make sure that you have the right positioning. So my wrists are gonna be through. I'm gonna keep my hands here close to my armpits. My thumbs are gonna be close to my armpits. I'm gonna keep it tight, and then I'm going to come through, okay? So again, a lot of people tend to let their hands come here, or they track out and then they get out to here. That's a weak position for our shoulders and not a stable position, so we want to make sure that we don't do that, okay? Again, stay here. You're going to stay close, stay tight, chest through, and finish, okay? So that's for if we want to do a false grip. So on a false grip, you need to be able to hold your false grip in this position. So if I did it from a seated position, okay? If you have rings at home, you can do this at home. This is something you can practice wherever you want, but this is the situation that I have at home. I don't have it high enough to do regular muscle ups, so we're gonna do a seated strict muscle up. So again, no different from if I was standing and doing it. I would split the rings in half, turn my hands in. In this position, I'm going to pull and sit over the top. If you'd like, you can push out, or you could just get to this position, okay? So again, that's a seated strict muscle up. The next thing I want to talk about is if you have your strict muscle up, but you need to work on getting a regular muscle up, a lot of times people miss the snapback portion of the muscle up. So they'll try and throw their hips to the rings, which is something that we don't really want to do. When you throw your hips to the rings, yes, you're getting your hips high enough, but then most of the time people will end up with their shoulders underneath the rings, which is why it's hard to transfer and sit over the top, okay? So this snapback drill is gonna make us engage our shoulders, and then we're gonna try and pull actually to our armpits and then sit over the top, okay? So if you see right now, I'm sitting under the rings, I'm just gonna pull back, snap back, okay? So it'll be snap, snap, okay? So again, a lot of people miss this component, but this component will make me weightless for when I go to sit over the top, right? So I'm gonna snap back, and you'll actually hear the straps make that snap sound, right? So I'm gonna snap back. The next thing we're gonna do is I'm gonna bring my hips up, snap back, then I'll sit over the top, okay? So again, I'm gonna put my hips up, snap back, sit over the top. okay? Now I'm gonna go quick. Poke, sit, sit. Good. Okay, so nope, let's go back. Same thing, okay? So I'm gonna sit up, but this is gonna be the quick version, so sit up, snap, sit over the top. Hips, pop my hips, pull back, sit over the top. Okay? So those are a few things that when we go, we want to make sure that we're always snapping back on the rings, and then we're sitting over the top. Again, you can practice these transition drills. You can work on the false grip muscle up, make sure you're holding it in the right position. And then these are just the basics of how to work on getting your strict muscle up and then transition to getting a better ring muscle up. So I'll be putting out some more videos later about the kipping muscle up and then also a hanging strict muscle up. But for now, I hope that you guys get some tips from this. Like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next week.